Okay, so let's dive in to a topic that's crucial for anyone thinking about starting a new business.
Yeah, pitching.
Pitching, exactly.
Yeah.
You got to get people on board with your vision, right? Investors, partners, even those first customers.
It all comes down to how well you can pitch. And we're going to take a deep dive into a book that can really help with that. Oren Klaff's Pitch Anything.
Okay, pitch anything.
Yeah.
What's the big takeaway?
This book is really a game changer, especially for someone who's new to the entrepreneurial world.
Right.
It's not just about, giving slick presentations. It's really about understanding the psychology behind why people say yes.
Well, I like that. Okay, so what's the secret?
Well, Klaff starts off with this fascinating concept. He calls it the crocodile brain.
The crocodile brain. Okay.
Yeah, and it's basically this primal part of our brain,
Yeah.
the one that's focused on survival and instant reactions.
Okay.
And it's kind of like the gatekeeper to any decision that we make.
So even when we think we're being, all logical and making rational decisions, there's this part of our brain that's still reacting like we're facing down a saber-toothed tiger.
Exactly. And that's what you're up against when you're pitching your business.
Oh, wow.
You're trying to get past that inner crocodile to reach the part of the brain that can actually process your idea.
Okay, that makes pitching sound a lot more dangerous than I thought.
Yeah.
So how do we make sure our pitch doesn't get eaten alive?
Right. Well, Klaff points out that the croc brain, it actually filters out almost 90% of information.
90%? Wow.
Yeah, so that's a huge hurdle,
Yeah.
Your pitch has got to be novel. It's got to be exciting, something that really cuts through all that noise to even get noticed.
Okay, so it's got to be like that shiny object that everyone's drawn to.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying to, stand out in a crowded marketplace.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we make our pitch stand out?
One of the key strategies that Klaff emphasizes is something called framing.
Framing.
Yeah, think of it as setting the stage for your pitch, right?
Yeah.
Controlling the context of the interaction. You're not just presenting information, you're creating an experience.
So it's not just what you say, but how you say it and even the environment you're in.
Precisely. And to do that effectively, you need to recognize the different frames that people use, often unconsciously, to control interactions.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you're meeting with a potential investor and they try to dominate the conversation, right? They're constantly interrupting you.
Yeah.
They're using what Klaff calls a power frame.
Okay. Yeah. I can see how that would throw you off your game for sure.
Yeah.
How do you handle that?
Well, Klaff calls this a classic power play, and he recommends what he calls a power busting frame to counter it.
Power busting. Oh.
Yeah, and he tells this great story about a meeting he had with a trader at a money center bank. And the trader shows up late. He's boasting about himself, the whole 9 yards. It was a clear attempt to establish dominance.
So how did he break out of that power dynamic?
Well, he did something unexpected. He countered the trader's boast with a playful joke. Acknowledging the power play, but refusing to be intimidated by it.
Oh.
And it shifted the dynamic. It created a more level playing field.
That's clever. So it's about subtly pushing back without being aggressive.
Exactly. It's about regaining control of the interaction without creating conflict.
Right.
And there are different frames to be aware of, like the time frame,
Yeah.
where someone tries to rush the decision, they create a sense of urgency.
I can see how that would be a tactic, especially when you're eager to get a deal done. You kind of get swept up in that.
Right, absolutely. But you can counter that with a time constraining frame,
Okay.
You politely set your own boundaries, let them know you're not going to be pressured.
Yeah, like, hey, I value your time, but I also value mine.
Exactly. And then there's the analyst frame where someone's, focused solely on data and logic.
I guess that's common when you're pitching to investors, right? They want
Yeah.
to see the numbers.
Of course, but sometimes it can get in the way of seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And to counter that, Klaff suggests an intrigue frame.
Okay, intrigue.
Yeah, instead of overwhelming them with data, pique their curiosity, tell a story, paint a picture of the problem you're solving and the impact your solution will have.
So appeal to their emotions as well as their logic?
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those situations where the person you're supposed to be pitching to doesn't even show up?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're already starting off on the wrong foot.
That's a good point. And it happens more often than you might think. But Klaff has a strategy for this, too.
Okay, good.
He calls it the prize frame.
The prize frame, I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more.
The idea is to position yourself as the valuable entity, the one they need to win over.
Okay.
So instead of feeling disadvantaged by their absence, you flip the script.
So instead of chasing after them, you make them chase after you.
In a way, yes. He tells a story about this avocado farmer who was owed money by this shady businessman. And when he went to collect, the businessman's assistant kept saying, "Oh, he's running late. He'll be here soon." But Klaff, representing the farmer, didn't just sit there and wait.
Good for him.
He made it clear that his time was valuable, and the businessman needed to earn the opportunity to speak with him.
That's a bold move, but I can see how it would shift the dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay, so framing is about controlling the context.
Yeah.
But what about the actual content of the pitch? What makes it compelling?
That's where the concept of status comes in.
Oh, status. So now I have to worry about my social standing on top of everything else.
Well, not necessarily. Klaff differentiates between what he calls global status, which is your overall social position,
Okay.
and situational status, which you can create within a specific interaction.
Oh, okay. I like that much better. But how do you create that when you're, just starting out? You may not have a lot of clout in the business world yet.
Right. It's about leveraging your expertise and confidence within the context of your pitch. He calls it local star power. Think about it like this. You may not be a celebrity in the real world.
Right.
But when you're pitching your business, you're the star.
I like that.
You are.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine you're in this fancy Parisian restaurant.
Okay.
And the waiter Benoit knows the menu inside and out. He recommends the perfect wine. He even gently corrects your choice if he thinks it's not the best pairing.
And you trust his judgment even though you've never met him before?
Exactly. He's created situational status through his knowledge and his confidence.
Yeah.
You're unconsciously acknowledging his authority within that context.
So I don't have to be a world-renowned expert to have credibility.
Exactly. And he gives another great example, a golf pro and a heart surgeon.
Okay.
In the real world, the surgeon holds a higher social status, right?
Right.
But on the golf course, the pro is the expert.
Yeah.
His situational status is higher because he's in his domain.
He's in his element.
He knows the course. He knows the game. He knows the strategy.
So it's about finding that area where you excel and bringing your audience into that space, making them see you as the authority.
Precisely. And that ties directly into how you structure your pitch. It all comes together.
Okay, I'm ready for the nuts and bolts here. How long should this pitch be? What should I actually say?
Well, Klaff is very clear about this. Attention wanes after 20 minutes.
20 minutes, okay.
You need to be concise. You need to be impactful. And he provides a specific framework for delivering your pitch broken down into 4 phases.
Okay, I'm taking notes. What's the first phase?
The first phase is all about introducing yourself and your big idea.
Okay.
And you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay.
Those 5 minutes are crucial.
Wow, 5 minutes to make a first impression. That's not a lot of time.
It's not, but Klaff recommends using a pattern. He calls it the idea introduction pattern.
Okay.
It's a series of questions that will guide your opening. Who are your target customers?
Wow.
What problem are they facing? What solution are you offering? And what makes your solution unique?
So it's about painting a clear picture of the opportunity right from the start.
Exactly. And to make that picture even more compelling, you need to incorporate a strong narrative.
A story?
Yes, but not just any story. It needs to be engaging, it needs to be relevant, and it needs to be emotionally resonant.
Okay.
He shares an example of a story that he uses in his pitches called the Porterville Incident.
Okay.
It involves a near collision in a private jet.
Whoa! A near collision. I'm on the edge of my seat already.
It's a great example of how a well-told story can capture attention,
Yeah.
create suspense, and highlight your own expertise.
Okay, so we've got framing, status, storytelling. What else do we need to know to nail this pitch?
We need to delve into what Klaff calls hot cognitions.
Hot cognitions. Okay.
These are decisions that are driven by feeling rather than analysis.
So it's not just about logic and facts. We have to appeal to their emotions, too.
Absolutely. You have to trigger that wanting in the target's mind.
I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Yeah.
But it also feels a bit manipulative.
Well, it can be a delicate balance, but Klaff emphasizes the importance of authenticity and ethical persuasion.
Right.
You're not trying to trick people. You're trying to present your idea in a way that resonates with their deepest desires and motivations. And for someone starting a new business, that means genuinely believing in the value of your product or service.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get caught up in your own enthusiasm and forget to consider the other person's perspective.
That's where empathy comes,
Yeah.
Put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
What are their concerns? What are their motivations? If you can address those through your pitch, you'll be much more effective.
This is all great stuff. But we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just getting started.
We are. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore how to craft a compelling offer, create those crucial hot cognitions, and ultimately close the deal using Klaff's powerful frame stacking technique.
Okay, frame stacking sounds like we're taking things to a whole new level.
We are.
I can't wait.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork, established our presence, hooked our audience with a compelling story.
Right.
Now let's talk about that third phase of Klaff's pitch structure. Presenting the deal. What's in it for them?
Okay.
This is where we get down to brass tacks, and Klaff says we've got a tight 2 minutes to do it.
2 minutes. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface at this point. Is that enough time to really make our case?
That's the brilliance of this approach. Remember, you've already set the frame, piqued their curiosity, established your status, and hopefully got their dopamine flowing.
Okay.
Now it's about presenting a clear and concise opportunity.
So, no more storytelling at this point. Just the facts, ma'am.
Not quite. You still want to maintain that persuasive edge, but the focus shifts to laying out the concrete opportunity. Think high-level overview. What's the structure of the deal? What are the key deliverables? What kind of return on investment can they expect?
Okay, so just enough to give them a solid understanding of the value proposition without getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah. Exactly. Keep that dopamine flowing. We want to keep them leaning in, eager to hear more. And that brings us to the final and perhaps most crucial phase of Klaff's pitch structure, frame stacking for a hot cognition.
Frame stacking. Okay, this sounds like we're taking things to a whole new level, like we're building this tower of persuasion brick by brick. What exactly does that mean?
It's about combining multiple frames to create a pitch that bypasses those logical defenses and goes straight for the emotional core, triggering what Klaff calls a hot cognition.
So we're going for the gut, not just the head. Emotions over logic.
Think about it. Most decisions, even in the business world, aren't based solely on cold, hard data. We're driven by emotions, desires, aspirations. Klaff tells this fascinating story about a Wall Street trader who was completely thrown off his game by a master pitcher who used a 4-frame stack. It completely disrupted his decision-making process.
Okay, I have to hear this. What were the 4 frames?
It started with an intrigue frame, dropping hints about a lucrative opportunity without revealing all the details. Just enough to pique his curiosity and make him want more.
Classic scarcity tactic, make them feel like they're missing out if they don't lean in.
Exactly. Then he layered on a time constraint frame, creating a sense of urgency, making him feel like he had to act fast or miss the boat entirely. Then came the prize frame, positioning the deal as something highly sought after, something he had to earn the right to be a part of. And to top it all off, a moral authority frame assuring him that this was an ethical, trustworthy opportunity.
Wow, that's a powerful combination. It sounds like he basically hacked his brain.
In a way, he did. He bypassed those analytical defenses and went straight for the emotional core. And that's the power of frame stacking. But it's important to remember that Klaff emphasizes the importance of ethical persuasion.
Right.
You're not trying to trick or manipulate people, but present your idea in a way that resonates with their aspirations and motivations.
Okay, so how do we walk that line?
Yeah.
Especially for someone starting a new business. There's a lot of pressure to get those first few wins. How do we stay true to ourselves while also using these techniques effectively?
It all starts with a genuine belief in the value of your idea, that authenticity will shine through no matter what techniques you're using. And it's about understanding your audience. What are their pain points, their goals, their values? If you can align your pitch with those, you'll be much more likely to create that emotional resonance.
Okay, that makes sense. But I have to admit, sometimes I get so caught up in trying to be persuasive that I come across as too eager or even desperate.
That's a common trap, especially when you're passionate about your business. But Klaff warns against what he calls neediness. It's like kryptonite to persuasion.
So I shouldn't seem too eager to close the deal. I should play it cool.
Not necessarily play it cool, but project confidence and detachment from the outcome. Neediness triggers a threat response in that primal croc brain, making people want to back away. It's about having faith in the value of your idea, believing in yourself, and trusting that the right people will see that.
Easier said than done, especially when you're just starting out and every deal feels like a make-or-break moment.
It's definitely a mindset shift. Klaff talks about focusing on the process, not just the result.
So enjoying the journey, not just obsessing over the destination.
Exactly. And that includes embracing the challenge, the game of persuasion. He tells this great story about a time when his own company was on the verge of collapse. They were down to their last pitch, facing immense pressure. But instead of letting that fear cripple him, he went into the pitch with confidence and detachment.
I can only imagine the nerves.
But that shift in mindset made all the difference. The investor sensed his genuine belief in the idea, and that's what ultimately won them over.
It's like the saying, act as if, and it shall be. So it's not just about the words you say, but the energy you project.
Exactly. It's about flipping the script. Instead of needing their approval, you're offering them an opportunity to be a part of something great. And that energy is contagious.
That reminds me of something you mentioned earlier, the importance of having fun with the process.
Absolutely. When you're genuinely enjoying yourself, that comes through in your pitch. It makes people want to be around you, want to hear what you have to say.
It's like when you meet someone who's truly passionate about what they're doing, you can't help but be drawn in.
Exactly. And that's what makes you persuasive. It's not about tricks or manipulation. It's about connecting with people on a human level, sharing your vision with authenticity and enthusiasm. And for someone starting a new business, that passion is your greatest asset.
Okay, I'm feeling fired up and ready to tackle those pitches. But I have a confession. I'm a bit of an overthinker. Sometimes I get so caught up in the details that I lose sight of the bigger picture.
That's something a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, and Klaff offers some great advice for this. He talks about the importance of keeping things simple, focusing on a few key frames that resonate with you and your business. Don't overcomplicate things.
So less is more, right?
Exactly. That applies to the structure of your pitch, the content, everything. Remember, you're trying to connect with that primal croc brain. Keep it clear, concise, and compelling.
So what's the takeaway for someone who's new to this world of pitching and persuasion, who's just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey?
The most important thing to remember is that it's a skill, not a talent. Anyone can learn it.
That's reassuring.
It takes practice, of course.
Yeah.
And it's about finding what works for you, your personality, and your business. But with the right mindset and a willingness to learn, anyone can become a master persuader.
Well, I'm definitely feeling more confident after this deep dive. I'm ready to go out there and pitch anything.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground already, from that crocodile brain to frame stacking. But before we wrap up our deep dive into pitch anything, I wanted to touch on some common pitfalls, that even experienced pitchers sometimes stumble into.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement and forget some of the basics, especially when you're really passionate about your business and you just want to share all the details.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. One trap I've definitely fallen into is getting too technical.
Uh-huh.
Wanting to impress the audience with all the intricate details of my product or service.
Yeah, that's a classic mistake. Remember that croc brain we talked about?
Right.
It's not wired for complex technical jargon.
Right.
It wants the big picture, the emotional hook, the clear and compelling narrative.
So how do we strike that balance? How do we provide enough information to demonstrate our expertise without overwhelming our audience?
Klaff suggests using what he calls high-level details.
High-level details. Okay.
It's about painting a vivid picture without getting bogged down in the weeds.
Okay. Can you give me an example? Like, say, I'm pitching a new software product.
Mm-hmm.
Do I really need to explain, every line of code?
No, not at all. Instead of diving into algorithms and technical specs, focus on the key benefits. What problems does your software solve? What makes it unique? How will it improve the user experience?
So it's about translating those technical details into something that's relatable and meaningful to the audience, something they can connect with emotionally.
Precisely, you want them to grasp the value proposition without needing a computer science degree.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Another thing I've noticed, especially when I'm pitching to investors, is the temptation to get carried away with projections and potential returns.
Yeah.
It's easy to paint this rosy picture of massive growth and sky-high valuations.
Yes, the allure of future riches. It's tempting to promise the moon, but that can really backfire. Investors are savvy. They've heard it all before.
Right.
And if your projections seem unrealistic or outlandish, you're going to lose credibility fast.
So what's the alternative? Should we downplay the potential of our idea?
Not necessarily. It's about striking a balance between optimism and realism. You want to convey your excitement and belief in the opportunity, but also acknowledge the risks and challenges.
So it's about being honest and transparent, even when it's tempting to sugarcoat things.
Exactly. Investors appreciate that. They're not looking for a sure thing. They're looking for a team that's capable of navigating uncertainty and delivering results.
That makes a lot of sense. But I also worry about the flip side of that. What if we're so focused on avoiding neediness that we come across as aloof or arrogance?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. There's a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
Right.
And it's easy to cross it, especially when you're using some of those assertive framing techniques we discussed.
So how do we stay on the right side of that line?
It comes back to authenticity and genuine connection. You want to project confidence without being condescending, assert your expertise without diminishing their intelligence.
It's like that saying, be confident, not cocky.
Exactly. And that's where humor and self-awareness play a big role.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. Show your human side.
Klaff encourages us to have fun with the process, to not take ourselves too seriously.
Right. It's like if you can't laugh at yourself, life's going to seem a whole lot longer. But seriously, when you can show that vulnerability, it makes you more relatable, more trustworthy.
Absolutely. And ultimately, Klaff's pitch anything framework is about more than just closing deals. It's about becoming a more effective communicator, a master of persuasion in all aspects of your life.
So whether you're pitching a business idea, negotiating a raise, or even just trying to convince your kids to eat their vegetables.
The principles are the same. Understand the psychology, master the techniques, and bring your authentic self to the interaction. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into pitch anything. I feel equipped to go out there and, well, pitch anything. What about you?
Absolutely. And remember, the most important lesson isn't just about winning. It's about playing the game with confidence, grace, and a sense of adventure.
Yeah, and who knows, maybe you'll even have some fun along the way.
Now that's a hot cognition worth pursuing.